Hello, welcome to Shades of Gay News, hosted by myself, Gavi, your friendly cover designer for Shades of Gay and Winter Silence. Today we'll be interviewing the author and publisher of Shades of Gay, Stephanie Silberstein, who will be telling us the ins and outs of her work of literature. Stephanie, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you, glad to be here.
I and I'm sure our listeners are really excited to hear about you and your book, Shades of Gay.
Great.
Can you give us a short summary on what the book is about?
Shades of Gay is about a high school senior who is coming out for the first time. He's gay, and he establishes or tries to establish a relationship with another boy. And it's basically about what happens to them as they become more open and how people react and how coming of age can be painful as well as coming out.
Mm-hmm. That's very understandable. Did you base any of your characters on real people? What about the event? Did they really happen?
The characters are pretty much composites of people that I know. Mm-hmm. As you know, I began working on Shades of Gay because I wanted to do something to change the suicide rate among LGBT students and youth. Mm-hmm. So, my characters are basically composites of LGBT people I know or non-LGBT people I know, several different people. The events didn't happen as stated, but again, they're all based on real events. Certainly a lot of the feelings are real.
Absolutely. That's very understandable. How difficult was it for you to write from the point of view of a gay male? How did you approach that, the issues and everything?
I surprisingly did not find that all that difficult. It was a little bit difficult writing some of the more sexual feelings that he had towards the other boy because me being asexual was something I really had to imagine. But other than that, I didn't really find it to be a huge problem because I saw all my characters as people, male, female, whatever. And so I just tried to imagine as best as I could, asking myself, getting into that character, what's this character like? What do they want? What would they feel in this situation? What would they do in this situation? And the hardest thing for me was to not over-direct my characters. I have a tendency when I write to be like, he picked up the pen before he spoke. The next sentence, he raised his eyebrows, and so on. And so I had to eliminate some of that and let the characters just speak.
Okay. So try to avoid, over-clarifying and just kind of go with the flow and let it happen as it needed to.
Yes.
Awesome. How concerned were you with the appropriateness? Was there anything you felt you should leave out of Shades of Gay because of your target audience? Did you censor yourself any?
That was a little bit difficult because I am writing mainly for teenagers and young adults. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't sure how much physical contact to include in it. I knew that my characters had a sex drive. I knew they would want to have sex, and I knew that readers might want them to. And I did question or encouraging people who are 16 or 17 to have sex. And so that was something I thought about, but I had to be true to my characters and what they wanted and what would work for these characters. So I tried not to censor myself too much.
Okay. Did you approach writing this book differently than you approached your previous novel, Winter Silence?
I think in some ways I did. I think that Winter Silence was for a slightly younger audience, and it was written from the point of view of a very young child. So it was limited in what I could do with it because there were things she just didn't understand or wouldn't be able to express. With Shades of Gay, I did a lot more planning. I did a lot more thinking about the characters, what they wanted, and so forth. And I tried to incorporate, and it was a longer kind of story too. It takes place over the course of an entire year. So I had to make that work and keep the interest and go back through and make sure I wasn't repeating anything or that everything gelled together properly. So I had to do a lot more thinking about the events of the story.
Okay. So it's like make sure if you go around a corner, the phone is in the same place it was early on in the book or something like that, right?
Yes.
Every little detail.
Exactly.
Awesome. Cool. How did you motivate yourself to complete Shades of Gay, and what were your hopes? What are your hopes for this book?
I motivated myself in a couple of ways. The most important thing was remembering why I was writing it. I'm writing this book because too many LGBT young adults kill themselves every year. 4 times as many non-heterosexual youth kill themselves than heterosexuals. I'm writing this book because I've experienced that with what you struggled with, suicidal feelings, and seeing what was happening to you and finding out that it was a very common experience, and a lot of people aren't lucky and a lot of people don't make it. And so when I got stuck, I would try to remember, this is why I'm writing this. It also helped that I had a fan page on Facebook, because right now I have almost 600 fans. Even before the book was completed, I had 400 or so. And so I didn't want to disappoint all those people.
Right.
And so it was important that I continued to work on the book and continued to get it done and sent that message out, both to all the people who might be suffering and all the people who were excited about the book.
Some critics have said Shades of Gay is unrealistic because kids don't face that type of discrimination today. How would you answer those criticisms?
That's something I really don't understand, and it's frustrating because I've seen it. And you see it in all sorts of ways that you wouldn't expect. It's true that we don't have as much overt prejudice and discrimination as there used to be. There's not a whole lot of people beating each other up in the streets and that kind of thing. I know it happens, but it's not the main focus. But I think it's important that people who are non-heterosexual talk about the things that are happening. Everything from not being able to marry their partners, which includes not being able to be with them in the hospital when they're seriously ill or dying, to kids in school who are afraid to go to school because other kids are picking on them for being LGBT and nobody does anything about it. And I think that if you talk to people who are gay, bisexual, lesbian, or transgender, and you learn about their experiences, you'll find out what they actually go through. And I wish we lived in a world where this was just a story. I wish that some of the comments I've gotten, like, no teacher would ever say anything prejudiced against an LGBT student, were true. Teachers shouldn't do that, and I wish that they didn't. But unfortunately, we do live in a world where that happens, and that's why we need books like this, and we need people to share their stories.
Absolutely, I agree. Did you ever worry about backlash from the anti-LGBTQ community for writing such a pro-LGBTQ novel?
I don't really worry about it. I know that it happens. In a way, I kind of hope it does because it means I'm really having an effect. There's always people who want to ban books from school libraries and so forth, and I always thought it would be an honor to get onto that kind of list because that means I'm writing something of real substance. I really would prefer not to deal with violent people or anything like that.
Absolutely.
But I'm not going to stop saying what I have to say out of fear or anything, so they're really irrelevant. I'm not writing this for them.
Okay. What is one thing you hope readers get out of Shades of Gay?
It's better to be yourself even if the world rejects you than to hide. There's one of the themes of Shades of Gay is about the courage it takes to be open about who you are and to learn who you are and to stand up against people. And it doesn't always end well, but it's really worth it. And the other thing is not be scared to grow and change, not be scared to discover more of who you are and to be different than you were. Shades of Gay also takes place over an entire year, and during that year, my protagonist Arthur and his friends go through a lot of changes, get ready to go to college and that kind of thing. And it's nerve-wracking for the kids. And so the other point that I want to make with Shades of Gay is life changes, things happen, but not to be afraid of that.
I agree. Who inspires you to write?
It's hard to choose one person who inspires me to write. This is a question that can go on all day. It depends on if you mean writing influence or just people in my life. Obviously with this, you were one of my inspirations because you went through a lot and you emerged on the other side of it and you had the courage to be yourself. People like Harvey Milk, who make a positive difference in the world and encourage others to have hope and to spread hope. And of course, I've always wanted to change the world, improve the world even better. I found that, which is a very Jewish thing, the whole Jewish notion of tikkun olam, healing the world.